I'm sorry, say that one more time. Yeah. I think you could make the argument we probably have 8 or 9 guys right now going into preseason that I feel like could start for us or a number of Big Ten teams. That number could go up or down a little bit based on how camp goes. It's always interesting to see how much guys improve from the end of spring ball to the start of camp. You have your end of the year meetings with them, and you tell guys what their weaknesses, what their strengths are. And some guys really attack those weaknesses. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, I kind of feel like when I showed up at Penn State, that was like part of my pledge process, that I was like pledging the Penn State community and had to go through six offensive linemen or whatever the number was when we first got that. I feel like that was you and everybody in the Penn State community making me kind of earn this deal. But, I think it also, it's like anything else in life, all these experiences that you go through make you appreciate it when you're able to make some progress. So I like where we're at. I think Matt's done a fantastic job. I think Tyler Bowen has been a tremendous compliment to Matt. I think whenever you can have a situation like that where you essentially have 2 O-line coaches on your offensive staff is critical because it's such a big position to manage and to recruit to. I know Matt really appreciates having someone like that that's a sounding board for him, that he can bounce ideas off. No different than me having guys with experiences on the staff, Coach Galt, that I can bounce ideas off as well based on experience or previous roles. So, I like where we're at right now and the progress that we've made at a number of positions. But I think for all the people that follow Penn State so closely, we all know that's been a storyline from day one.
James, in what ways does having a deep and veteran offensive line, how will that impact the way the offense is run? How can it help?
Well, I think what happens is I think we've been one of the more explosive teams in the Big Ten the last 2 years. I think we've led the Big Ten in passing, I think, the last 2 years. But last year we got a little bit more efficient. We were like 2 years ago, we were huge play or kind of nothing or sometimes negative plays. And last year we became more efficient, but we still had too many negative plays, tackles for loss and things like that, where I think as we get to be better on the offensive line, we're going to eliminate some of those negative plays. And then the other thing is we had games where the running game disappeared against upper-tier talent in our league. So I think it's going to help us develop the running back position. I think it's going to allow wide receivers that are developing that may have a little bit more time to create separation and get open. And those types of things. And then obviously a veteran quarterback who really becomes an eraser for you in a lot of ways in your offense, especially a veteran quarterback like Trace, who's able to solve problems. I think him and Ricky Ronnie are going to work really well together. I think Tommy Stevens in a lot of ways will be kind of a sounding board for Trace, kind of like how Tyler is for Matt. So I think we're in a good position there, but I think the biggest things that I'm looking forward to is not getting into games where the running game disappears and eliminating some of the negative yardage plays. I think that's probably where I think we're hopeful that group will show up the most. Yeah, I remember, I think we were 2-2 in the time, and, I'd go to Jamba Juice and get dirty looks, and, we're losing at halftime after, I think it was following, right, a real tough loss on the road against Michigan, and things weren't looking good, and I think the student section was chanting, "Fire Franklin, fire Franklin." And I don't think for like a couple minutes. I think for a quarter, maybe a half. The fact that our team, kind of stuck to, what we believe and battled through that adversity and found a way to get that win. People forget, I think that team won 9 games that year. That was a good team. And we found a way to win that game and built some mental toughness and, overcame some adversity and found a way to win a tough game. Then, obviously, after that, we were able to kind of build momentum. I think it was Ohio State was the following week, the whiteout, and win that game and then win 9 straight. So, I think that was probably a pivotal moment, in our program, and obviously a very pivotal point in my regime. I think looking back at it, we obviously don't win the Big Ten championship with that, and we don't go to back-to-back New Year's Six bowl games, and we don't go undefeated at home 2 years in a row, and those types of things. So, I think it was a pivotal moment, in at least our time at Penn State and in my regime. Well, I think Trace is very grounded. He's got a great family, got a great support system. I think also the way we operate and the way we do things kind of helps. I think him watching Saquon Barkley last year, and at one point it was a foregone conclusion that they were just going to give Saquon Barkley the Heisman Trophy, and then at the end of the season isn't a part of the discussion. I think our team grew from that. They saw how fragile it all is and how quickly things can change. So I also think that being at a place like Penn State where football is very important, being a student athlete is very important. I mean, Saquon's been under Trace has been under a microscope, and it's been a big deal in our community for a long time. So I think he's used to this. I think he's prepared for this. He's also, a redshirt senior in college football, which I wish was more common than what it is nowadays. So I think all those things help. But most importantly, he's a well-grounded, well-rounded young man.
James, you talked about Connor McGovern earlier today and his versatility, and you talked about the possibility that he could play almost anywhere on the offensive line. Is there a scenario short-term where you could see him and Michael maybe switching spots, or is that more of a long-term vision for you, or does that have to play out in August?
No, I think there's some scenarios where we have to find out what is the best position for Connor, what is the best position for Michael Menet, how do those two impact each other, and most importantly, how do we get the best 5 on the field? Chaz Wright is part of that discussion. We got a bunch of guys, so I think it's a really good situation to be in. I think the way we've recruited and the way we've developed, we've created some position flexibility, which is really important. I think it's going to take camp to figure that out, because Trace is going to play a big part in that. Who is he most comfortable with? All those things. But most importantly, at the end of the day, how do we get those 5 guys in the best position to be successful together? There's also the opposite end of that. It's hard to take a guy who's been starting at a position and now have 2 new guys at 2 new positions, where if you leave him at center, you only got 1 new guy to the scenario, if that makes sense. So there's always that, where are you going to have the least moving parts so that we can start building and build that chemistry as soon as possible. So it's going to take camp. It's going to take camp for us to figure that out.
Stevens, can you describe the challenge of knowing when to play him and how to use him?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for us with Tommy Stevens is, most importantly, we got to keep developing Tommy at the position he plays, which is quarterback. Where I think you have to be careful as you move Tommy and start doing individual at other positions and things like that. That's not the best thing for our program long term, and that's not the best thing for Tommy. So for us, we got a weapon, and we got a talented guy that has a lot of skills, and we're going to use him as such. But also, it's not like your normal situation where you got a quarterback in your system that you're trying to get reps, and by doing that, you have to take your starter off the field. We don't have to do that. We can use them both on the field at the same time, whether that is a 2-quarterback system or whether that is Tommy on the field playing another position. That's where I think it's a little bit unique, because you're able to gain him some experience playing, but not really doing it and having to remove Trace from the field or to disturb flow. If that makes sense.